I'm John, and I'm going to be telling the story.
I'm Duncan
Okay.
Idaho. I fight. Bring out the battle music. I'm Duncan Idaho. I'll be playing Marcus Graves and Lieutenant Tardigrade.
I'm Geraldine, and I'll be playing Kara Juarani, our con officer.
I'm Bezeg, and I'll be playing our Chief Engineer, Rick Tier, and also technical assistant for the role-playing game part of the game.
I'm Olennis Kendra, and I'll be playing Olennis Kendra, Chief of Security.
I guess that leaves me, huh?
Or me. You
Fight.
first. He's not going first. After I said you first, what do I do?
First, Doctor.
I'm Nick, and I play Dr. Eli O'Connor, the Reliant's Chief Medical Officer, at your service.
The other person, the two who were fighting about who got to go first, the other person is playing our science officer.
Hi, I'm Casmodian. I am playing Quentin Reynolds. I science things.
And our ship, I think I see one more regular player and then one guest star this week. So,
I am the Grumpy Old Nord. I am playing Chaplain Victor Waitley, the ship's counselor and intendant of the ship's multi-faith chapel.
Poke. Oh, poke.
Dragoon. Poke Dragoon.
Well, I'm Green Dragoon, guesting as Jenik Rosso, resident redshirt.
Awesome. I like the way you put that. So we pick up on the bridge. A number of officers were just ordered to away team duty by the captain, and that is what we did last week. Things happened on board the freighter that the group had received a distress signal from. And once the Reliant arrived at the scene, the captain decided that she would send specialists in the areas that the freighter Captain Rurik had requested. She did not include Marcus Graves on that away team, and I'm guessing, I'm not sure, but I'm guessing you might have given a look. I don't know. Is that?
I would have just given a shrug at that point.
Okay. Once all of the officers that she asked to go on the away team had left the bridge, other officers moved into the stations that they have been trained to take over. So this has put Lieutenant Tardigrade in a terrible position of power as he looks at the tactical console, and once the transporter room sends signal to the bridge that the away team has transported over, the captain doesn't exactly relax, but she looks around at the officers she still has on the bridge, and she says, "Chaplain, keep an eye on their emotional state while they're over there. You might be able to tell us more quickly than even they can if something goes wrong."
He nods and says, "Noted, Captain. I shall do so."
She leans over to you, Marcus, and says, "Listen for what our specialists tell us. That's what we need in this situation, especially if Orions may be arriving at any point soon. We're going to need the command team on the bridge if that happens." And a few minutes pass, and the emotions of the away team are, I would say, within the first few minutes there, they were, there's some excitement, obviously, about being on their first away mission. Well, maybe not exactly their first for all of them, but I imagine there's always a little bit of a tingle of excitement of the unknown of what you're going to find. And I believe that the first person who called back to the ship was Kara. And do you remember what you first called back to recommend?
Kara to the bridge.
The captain had said, "This is Reliant. Go ahead."
Captain, we should try and prepare a tractor beam. If we can get the ship moving at all, even if it's not warp speed, we may be able to buy ourselves some time before the Orions arrive.
Okay. That was pretty much what just happened. Okay, there we go. I let my screen go to screensaver. That was pretty much the first contact back from the away team, and the captain said to make sure that the ship was stable to do that and to get back to her. And then she looked up to Lieutenant Tardigrade and said, assuming that you're qualified in targeting and tractor beam operations, get yourself ready.
Lieutenant Tardigrade salutes a bit dubiously.
Mm-hmm. She basically just she transfers up to one thing that you see her do, Quentin, is in addition to the words that she says when she gives an order like that, she is also patching quickly from her typing pad on her seat. She's patched things through to Tardigrade's station on what needs to be done, and she's also patched things through to the science station, where someone, at this point, a blue shirt, has taken the position normally occupied by Science Officer Reynolds. It's not very long that passes after that communication, where I believe it was it Rick who called back to the... Yes, it was Rick Tier who called back to the ship. And what did you say when the captain told you, go ahead? You remember?
Not specifically. But
you told her that you reported that the ship did not have the structural integrity to survive going to warp. That you'd work on it, but you were like, I'll work on it, but this ship really should not go to warp. And then, as I said, the whole away team took, I'm going to say, between 10 and 15 minutes when I think about it. Because following that on the bridge, now the captain, once you had been told that the structural integrity is not good, the captain, I wouldn't say that she got more tense, but she definitely got more attentive, immediately. And is there anything that Rosso, Waitley, or Reynolds would like to do on the bridge?
Rosso is just realigning the phaser array for the third time.
What would it be? It would be a reason security. So you're going to have a target number of 13, and your focus of computers applies, so you crit on a 4 or less.
Okay. That's a roll 2d20.
Yep, with the slash in front of it. Oh, that's one success and one failure that is not a critical failure. You think that you pick up warp signature. Because it's only the picking up warp signatures that might be approaching this system. You're not even sure that you picked up the signatures, but you did catch something. Like, part of your mind says something's coming, and another part of your mind thinks it might have been a ghost image. So that's like the success and the failure there. But your realigning of the phasers, you glanced at the long range tactical sensors, and you think you saw something.
Okay.
Lieutenant Tardigrade.
Okay.
I was going to say, Rousseau looks a little pensive for a moment, like he wants to say something, but is unsure of himself, and ends up not saying anything.
Okay.
I think Lieutenant Tardigrade has to make a will save, or a will roll, in order to resist pushing the torpedo button.
Okay. You rolled a 2 and a 19, so he really wants to press the torpedo button, but he is getting instructions piped over the console to have the tractor beam lining up the targeting array with the tractor beam and coordinating with the science station. So he really does want to push it, though. He really does.
Critical?
For Tardigrade? Let me call up his character sheet and I'll see.
Yeah, if there's a focus, it will be. If not,
he's focused in security protocols. It is a critical. It's 2 success. You made 2 successes on your willpower check to avoid pressing the big red button.
So do we give momentum?
Yes, you only needed 1, so you only needed 1. Tardigrade, in 2 games now, the Tardigrade has gained you guys momentum. That's awesome. There's a named Nissa in my place. Okay, what are the Barzans? I have to remember. What were they from?
I think were they one of the
negotiating. They were negotiating for the
they
discovered the wormhole, so they had a bunch of other species negotiating for managing said wormhole.
On from Discovery. That's who they are.
Next generation.
Oh, originally from Next Gen, but on Discovery Season 2, Non was Non was one as well. Okay, cool. That is currently who is on the science station. There's a female Barzan named Nissa who is manning the station. And the last communication from the other ship, the captain has piped to, and she's making sure that you see what she's making sure she's using the side of her chair that you can look at where she's sending information on what to do to people, based on what you have from the away team so far. And it's at that point that Jennick reports seeing something. But you said you're not very sure of yourself?
This is literally Jennick's first time on the bridge, so he's understandably nervous about the new amount of responsibilities we put on him.
Okay. When you do report seeing something, you're the closest, Quentin, so you see Cole's face change instantly when somebody says that they've picked up Jennick he's on a different drive. He's on a different drive. Her face changes immediately when Jennick reports that he's picked something up on the long range sensors. You can tell Marcus that she thinks your ship is about to go into combat. That's her face. It's like an instant shift and you know that she's probably about to give the order. It looks like she's about to call the away team when Quentin checks in. And Quentin says something to the effect of, you first called Rick Tier, and then you called the captain, and you basically told her that this ship wasn't going to be going anywhere, et cetera, right? I'm trying to remember.
I think that officially came through Rick himself, but I concur based on what I saw at the bridge.
Right. But regardless, that was the engineer and the science officer both reporting, and when Kara suggested we could beam the Epos over with the cargo transporter, the captain just she didn't make any hint that the away team would pick up that there needed to be a little bit of a hurry, but she just was like, I agree, get everybody where they need to go. The doctor reported he needed to the doctor and Kara reported that they needed to go right to sickbay with 2 of the creatures and 1 of the crew, and that otherwise Kendra would be appearing in. Actually, nobody needs to appear in the cargo bay, but the rest of you, being then Kendra, Quentin, and Rick Tier, would be appearing in the transporter room, and that was 100%. Captain was very happy at how fast that happened. You're sure of that, Marcus, because as soon as that happens, and you hear the away teams on board, like come up from the transporter room, for Genic and for Tardigrade and for Nissa on the science console, all 3 of those characters see those what looked like distant warp signatures warp into the system. They're not far off, but they're far enough off that they didn't come in like just firing at you. But there are 5 small Orion Raiders that are banking through space and heading toward your ship and the other ship. And when that happens, who wants to be the first to report it? Either Tardigrade, Nissa from Sciences, or Rosso. You're the 3 that pick it up.
I mean, just to fill the dead zone, I volunteer Green Dragoon. Or
I like it.
Rosso pauses for a moment, like he's expecting Lieutenant Tardigrade to do something, and then finally says, "Sir, we've got incoming warp signatures. 5 confirmed contacts."
She looks over to you, Marcus, as she gives the command for. She says, "Alert, shields up." That's Tardigrade would be the one raising the shield, so he has another thing to distract him from the big red button.
That's probably for the best right now, because. Yeah. He made that a good thing. He made a critical success, because if he just made a regular success, he may be already slapping the button.
So, this is where 5. Baz, you're our technical expert. There are 5 very small Orion Raiders. The first thing that the people on the tack stations can pick up is that these are not highly warp capable. They're not highly warp capable raiders, so they had to launch from somewhere. And they had to launch wherever they launched from is probably pretty close. And what does Waitley do? I'm going to go down the people on the bridge. What does Waitley do?
Waitley has probably moved from his usual seat at the beside the center chair and gone to one of the science stations off to the side, and basically he's just observing everything. But while he's doing that, he's doing his thing, and he's just sitting there focused very heavily on mentally reading the people on the away team and what's going on. And like I said, he very much values personal privacy, so he's not digging into their thoughts, but he's just kind of
making sure everybody's safe.
Yeah, he's just kind of reading the surface thoughts and kind of getting an idea of what everybody is going through.
Okay. Rosso, you just detected it, and the captain says, the captain waits a beat after you say it. The transporter room says, away team is on board, and she says, yellow alert, shields up. And then what does Rosso do? The response to him, like, detecting that was a shields up alert. So
I need a clarification. For standard procedures, what would be the responsibilities of the main tactical position versus the auxiliary tactical position I'm at?
The two auxiliary tactical positions, there's a torpedo station where a torpedo officer makes sure that everything is lying. Basically, her job isn't to press the button to target and fire. And your job, for example, is not to press the button to target and fire the phasers. But what you're doing is exactly what you said before, what felt like what could possibly, be counted as boredom, like realigning that, making sure that I should open that book Baz gave me, Technobabble, where you're making sure that everything on the phasers is working and lined up right, so that when the person at the main tactical console calls for, this bank of phasers, they're there. They're there and they're powered. And that's what the auxiliary positions do.
All right, in that case, I'm bringing up the phasers to full power.
Right on. And then Graves. What do you do as the bridge shifts into 5 Orions are coming toward us mode?
Open hailing frequencies.
The captain nods, and that's tardigrade again, which is awesome, because once again he was probably like wanting to push the red button, and then his friend Marcus says open hailing frequencies. The captain nods, and does tardigrade not press the red button and instead open hailing frequencies?
Well, right now there's a little adventure going on. So an exocomp played by Starfire Theta has awoken on the bridge, and he is engaging Lieutenant Tardigrade. Lieutenant Tardigrade has recently just mimed, with surprising efficacy, do you want to push the red button to the exocomp? They're both hovering over the red button. Lieutenant Tardigrade looks up. Marcus looks to Lieutenant Tardigrade, just shakes his head. Lieutenant Tardigrade just kind of has a little bit of a sigh and hits the hailing frequencies button.
Okay.
The exocomp is still there.
And we're all gonna die. When the hailing frequencies open, your view screen on the bridge shifts to what looks like the inside of a fighter craft. You're dealing with a very small raider that has one pilot. It almost looks like what you would call a modern day, jet fighter is what it looks like. And when you hailed and when he answered, any of you who are looking can see that the 5 of them, they kind of pull up from the direction that they were going and take a holding pattern just outside of weapons range for both of you. And the face that comes on the screen is a male Orion. He has he has a plate bolted to the front of his head that has another thinner strip of metal that runs down to the back, which connects to another piece of, like a square piece of metal that's bolted to the back of his neck, and that is all connected to a collar that he is wearing. He has what looks like a thin flight suit with green piping on it, and no facial hair, no other hair aside from the plates of metal. And he says, "You are in our way, Starfleet."
Can Marcus Graves respond?
Captain actually looks over and nods and points to the screen.
Well,
yeah, she points to the screen. He says, "You are in our way, Starfleet."
Space is very, very, very big. I don't think it is possible for you to drop in without it being a very intentional action, i.e., you are stopping here and complaining about us being in your way. This is complete bull honky. So therefore, I will ask you, what are you doing here and what do you want? Actually, no, more to the point, why shouldn't I fire on you right now?
He looks a bit surprised. Behind him, Waitley, you're the only PC. Waitley and Rosso can see the captain smile when he says, "No, more to the point, why shouldn't I just fire on you right now?" The captain really smiles. She is quite happy with what he just said. And the Orion gets a look of surprise on his face, and he says, "Then we'll just take the ship as our car." He says, "Then we'll just take that ship floating over there for its monetary value."
What monetary value?
We happen to know and were attempting to provide aid to a well-known freelance trader here in the cluster. Apparently another Orion family has been using the Delta Volanus cluster for pirating. We just, of course, wanted to help.
I see that.
And at that, Nissa turns around from the science station, and she says, she actually interrupts you and says, "Mute 2 seconds. They just got their scans. They know they can't beat us."
Yeah.
And she's pointing to her station. And 2 seconds is gone. So they didn't even know that it muted, and she was able to give you a quick report. And at that moment, Kendra and Reynolds walk back onto the bridge. Where does Rick Tier go when he gets back to the ship?
He'll go directly to engineering.
And Dr. O'Connor and Kara, you appear in main sick bay. Dr. O'Connor, your patient is on a table, the way that good transporter officers would get you into sick bay, and all of that is starting to happen when Marcus is able to respond. What do you do? What do you say?
I basically shrug and just say, "Sure," and just wait and watch. So basically just letting the dead zone on the Orion side, just like, "Here, you want this ship? Go for it. Take it right in front of us."
He gets that where that look on his face where he's super frustrated right now because they know that they can't alone take on the Reliant, the 5 of them. And he has that like tongue like rolls through his lips in frustration a little bit, like, and he says, Mina will not deal with you as kindly as we do. Let's get out of here. And he opens a channel and says, let's get out of here. And the 5 of them, not in complete unison, but like 2 and then 2 and then the middle, like the 2 on the outside, then the next 2 and then the one in the middle, they warp out of the system. And
we gotta interrupt you.
Yeah.
So Marcus, on their way out, pushes the hailing frequencies button again and says, "But what about your ship?"
The captain actually chuckles and she says, when it's their boss, let's not be quite that antagonistic, but good job, Graves.
It's 5 small raiders. They were dropping in on the surprise, didn't likely know what capabilities the ship has from its sensor profile. So I would suspect we should get out of here because it's pretty easy for them to radio in reinforcements and come straight back if they've got ships in range.
That is a very good point. And when Kendra and Reynolds are coming onto the bridge, with them are 2 people. One is one looks like... I don't know how to say someone looks half Vulcan. He looks Vulcan. He's got pointy ears, he's got pointy eyebrows, but he's Vulcan. He's Vulcan and human. And maybe what would give away that he's probably not full Vulcan is he has a worried yet has an emotionally worried look on his face that, most Vulcans, they don't get an emotional look at all. And with him is a Cation that is dressed, how did we describe how he was dressed? He's like that shirt that we have in the tailor that has the off-duty shirt that has like the pads down the front. When you say we should probably get out of here, the captain says, I concur, looks up to where the turbo lift just opened and says, welcome aboard the Reliant. And the Vulcan says, I am Captain Rurik. I thank you for the rescue, but if my ship can't travel, we're just going to have to leave it, yes? And she says yes as she looks again over at Graves, and you know what the next stop of the Reliant would be. She just looks over at you and gives a motion like we should get. She actually says we really should get moving, and she's walking over to shake that captain's hand.
So at this point, Marcus just gestures to Helm and just says, "Let's get out of here."
The dark-haired, human-looking person, could be any race because it's an NPC at this point, activates the warp drive, and the Reliant goes to warp, leaving this system behind. And at that point, what do people want to do as scenes that would be happening now? Because the Reliant now, when Kara is able to check it, the Khan has put you on course for the Reliant's next destination, which is an uninhabited M-class world that, we're going to get down to the sick bay and on your patients. That's totally a scene I was hoping people wanted to do. The next stop on the Reliance, tour through the Delta Volantis cluster is a world that is an M-class planet that a long-range survey ship picked up short-range, low-powered radio waves that looked like there would be a reason to investigate at the very least. And it's going to take a little bit of time to get there. So one of the scenes that I definitely want to see is what's happening in the sick bay. And that's why I said, Kara, when you get time to check the con, because at first, Dr. O'Connor and con officer Kara Junrani appear in the sick bay. I want to rock. The patient whose life you have just saved and literally really just sealed up, yourself and your nurse, your physician's assistant, Bon, are there. Kara is there, and on a table just fairly close are two wounded Epos. One had a broken back half, kind of, and one had, I'm trying to remember. Do you remember, Kara?
It was a broken leg and a broken tailbone, a coccyx.
Yep, that was the two things. So they will survive, though. One thing to note is they are definitely, Whately is definitely able to pick up suddenly all of the Epos on the ship. Most of them just feel like happy little creatures, but there's two in sick bay that feel pained and injured. So most certainly 100+ Epos appearing in the cargo bay, Whately definitely picked that up. And you have a patient on the table and you have two wounded Epos. What would the two of you like to do?
Well, you first.
No, this is your domain. Doctor goes first.
Okay. My patient on the table, you said that he'd suffered an explosion in the flak jacket, like saved his chest, basically.
Yes.
Well, he took the brunt of
his chest too, which is why you had to do the surgery you had to do last week.
Well, now I got to check the more important bits, like got to check for brain damage, and since half of his face was burned, I'm also going to check if he could still use that eye. Checking for optical damage.
Okay, make a Baz. What's the combination of skill and such here that we need?
Depending on how you want to.
No, it's medicine.
Insight medicine or reason medicine.
I go reason medicine. You're in your domain. Trauma surgery applies, so 4 or under is your critical, and you need 14s as your target number.
All right, rolling.
Success. You only needed 1, so it's not a big deal. He did not suffer any brain damage. Ocular damage, yes. You'll need to... it didn't directly hit his eye, but some of the very fragile membranes behind the eye got really shaken up. Now you could either handle it open while he's still unconscious, make sure he stays unconscious, and you could open it up and fix him. You're back on board your ship in your sick bay. You'll have all the bonuses of that, or you could wait to see how extensive the damage is and if the body in this case heals itself, kind of.
I'm going to wait and do that. In the meantime, guess I want to take the dermal regenerator and patch up any burnt skin he has.
Okay. And Kara, you've got 2 wounded tardigrades. What do you do? 2 wounded Epos, not tardigrades. 2 wounded Epos. What do you do?
Kara, not being a medical officer, does what she can to help keep the currently awake tardigrade calm, and using the other hand, pulls up Epo biology on nearby screens to help the nurses be able to treat the Epos better. She also quickly explains the problem The unconscious Eppo is in more danger and it has a broken back. The conscious Eppo is going to be fine as long as it's kept calm. It only has a broken leg and a broken coccyx.
Okay. Bon looks at the fact that Dr. O'Connor has started doing exactly what needs to be done. He doesn't really need her help there for the moment. So when you say the unconscious Eppo is in more danger, it's got a broken back, a broken coccyx. Bon gives a nod to O'Connor, and she is, in fact, a medical officer. And she looks at what you've called up on the nearby screens, and she gets out pretty much the same magic medical tool that Dr. O'Connor used to mend the bones of that guy's the patient's broken ribs. And basically, yeah, she gets out the bone regrower majiggy. Osteogenic stimulator. Thank you. That's why you're our doctor. And she follows your instructions. Like, she asks you a couple of questions about their anatomy based on what she's seeing, and someone out there, let's say Dr. O'Connor, roll 2d20 for us, because your nurse is making a roll. Ooh, a complication. Really good success. So she is able to treat both Eppos, and you can tell that she fixes them, but in the doing, something happens because you're calming that one, Kara, while she's doing the work. And what happens, probably being a small, you actually have, there's a role. I
can make a suggestion if you wish.
You can, but I was also going to say there's a possibility if you could make a roll here yeah, absolutely, you have focus in it, and yeah, so it would be science. You would have a 15 target number with 4s being your critical. If you want to make a roll for what I was thinking.
Okay, I'm happy to do that, and I'm also happy to provide suggestions of how it goes wrong if it does.
Okay, it's not necessarily going wrong; it's a complication. 19 and a 13, so that's one success. You recognize the behavior of the animal because you are the one that is calming it and keeping it still while she fixes its leg. So that, and you're keeping it calm so that it doesn't like hurt its leg even more, and it bonds to you because you're the thing that's the complication, is that this particular Eppo, it is greenish.
This sounds like a complication for the captain, not for Kara.
It's a complication in general. But
you've got an Eppo friend.
Yes, you without trying got yourself an Eppo friend. It's kind of greenish brown in color. So
I will suggest that when this
tardigrades guard Eppos. Oh, that's beautiful. Did you see what Kendra just posted,
yeah,
Marcus? That's beautiful. That's awesome. So that scene totally needs to happen too. You can't up Dr. O'Connor, but you're certain that it's probably going to take him a couple of hours to wake up unless you force it, unless you use a brain stimulator to make him wake up. He's probably going to be out for a few more hours.
Unless he's needed. The man needs his sleep. Let him sleep.
Precisely. So we have some we have a person asleep in sick bay. The captain looks over to Graves and says, basically at this point, says, XO, you have the bridge. I'm going to see to our guests. And two bridge security officers accompany her onto the turbo lift with the Vulcan and the Cation. Oh, awesome.
Before everything finishes up in the sick bay, Kara looks over at the nurse. With your permission, I'd also like to put together a first aid kit next time so that I can do some of the first aid there on my own. Unfortunately, biological knowledge is no good if I don't have the tools to back it up.
Eli looks over. We had a first aid kit. You could have just asked.
You had a first aid kit. I was in a different part of the ship.
You came... Okay, yep.
That EPO could not have been moved. I wasn't going anywhere.
Bond looks over at you, Doctor, and she says, I'll be happy to put together. It's actually, how about I put together personal first aid packs that we could keep on our uniforms.
Thank you.
And she's like, it's like just an idea that she's expanding on what was just asked for, and she looks at you, Doctor, and realizes that she's speaking the idea while she's having it. So
that is a great idea. We'll work on that right now. Come on.
Right. So
Kara, real
you
quick
guys
before she leaves, pulls up a few extra medications that might be useful on animals and says, "Could you please include these 3 hypos?" And then she heads out. She thanks the medical team and heads out for the bridge.
Hey, so we also have Rick down in engineering. Your ship performed, I'm guessing, based on what you had rolled the first times you rolled for some engineering. Your ship is performing admirably. You are also certain that what the captain asked, not last week, but 2 weeks ago when she asked if it would be possible to see if we could improve the cruising velocity on these new engines. The more time that you spend in engineering, the more that you see she is definitely right. You just weren't. You're about to graduate Starfleet Academy. It probably isn't the kind of thing that you would have imagined doing on your cadet cruise, but you think that what she asked for is entirely possible. So, is there anything you would like to do as the ship approaches its next location? I bet he's still on mute.
Yes, there we go.
I forgot to press the
button. Rick's just sort of looking over the power system, checking over things, just making sure things are still running smoothly, checking in with crew, seeing if they've got any updates or anything going on, and just sort of mingling and just making sure things are running smoothly.
Rick can make a reason engineering. You're in your domain. You have a focus in experimental technology. Your critical number is on a 4, and you're looking for 15s.
How many? What difficulty is this?
You're gonna need 2 successes.
Okay, I might buy a dice with this one.
Okay, you guys are down to 1 momentum, so you get 3 dice. Looking for 2 under 15. Happening sidekick, where are you? Broke it!
Okay.
Just roll 3d20. I know you've got
I've got plenty of dice. I'm pulling them right out here. You can hear them.
It's like, I know you've got some. Yeah, it's Sidekick went into lots of people are using Discord right now mode.
Okay,
Roll
so
the kickback rock.
yeah, not good. 6, 19, and 20. I'm gonna use my determination to see if I can re-roll.
Okay. Re-roll that 20 or re-roll them all.
I'm gonna keep the 6, re-roll the 19 and 20.
Okay.
I got another 6 and a 12. So
3 successes. Yeah. You only needed 2. That builds the momentum right back. So you guys are still at 2. You're going through the power systems, checking back. You're checking through everything that just happened that the ship was asked to do. There were a bunch of calls from 2 different tactical stations to reroute power, to keep power flow to the phaser banks that they wanted, and they were rerouting power to move around to get torpedo bays ready to go, and there was also the call to go to warp soon after, and the ship didn't miss. What you notice is that the ship did not miss a beat, not even a little bit, and that includes the fact that the ship performed admirably. It didn't miss a beat, but because you got 3 successes, and that's crazy good. You got the 2 successes. You notice 3 places in the kind of in the engine's power output systems. I really should have looked in that book. We should put that book in the drive. Baz found a great book of technical technobabble. Wonderful. You see 3 places in the power output of what engineering is doing where you could almost certainly, and because you had a focus in experimental technologies, some of what you did in the academy was working with experimental engine technologies. This being the newest matter-antimatter engine in the fleet right now, in the entirety of Starfleet, this is as new as this kind of engine gets. It is totally compatible with some of the ideas that you were studying in the academy for increasing safely an engine's power output. And so those 2 successes give you the inspiration to actually see what the captain probably wouldn't be able to see herself, but she suspects that this ship can do.
Alright, so a plan starts formulating in my mind, and I guess I start working on a design.
Okay. That's going to be this is what I wanted to get to with it. That is going to be an extended task that doesn't have to happen all at once. Does that make sense?
Yep, so every now and again as we go along, we take a step in
As you go along, there'll be more times to roll on this. Again, what is a difficult but doable number of successes to need?
I'd say 3 or 4.
Okay, so then let's call it 4. You're going to need 4 successes, and it would take all 4 of them. What does a breakthrough do for you again?
So it decreases the difficulty.
Okay.
Checks.
Yeah. So it will require 4 successes, and your first roll on that extended task can happen now.
Okay, so I'm going to take spend a momentum,
Okay.
and the
Get
ship needs to roll a dice as well.
I will do that here. I have a set in front of me. The ship rolled a success.
Okay, so I rolled a 4, a 6, and an 11. A 4, a 9, 11, sorry.
That's 4 successes. I would say you make a good bit of progress in the next 5. We're gonna make it 6 days to the next place you have to check out. So in the next 6 days, that's a lot of good progress.
Yes, I should roll the 6s.
Or
they're sort of mixed in with everything.
sounds like typical dice etiquette of gamers. Your click-back rocks all live together.
Continue on without me, and I'll give details in chat once I've collected all the dice I need.
Okay, awesome. So we are moving into a spot where, as I said, the only big things that I want to share with Waitley, the Orions, when you guys talked to them, all 5 of them want to, for lack of a better phrase, they want to please their master, as it were. They, what would be, just an immediate sweep of what you felt out there, Waitley, they are all minimally emotionally and physically abused, minimally. You know that much is going on, and that their loyalty to whoever you actually know that they think of her as matron, not master, in fact, but that their loyalty is total, and they all want to please her. That's what you picked up from the Orions, but they are, as soon as their scanners told them that they couldn't take the Reliant, 5 of them up against the Reliant, they couldn't do it. As soon as their scanners told them that, they were all very ready to get out and leave, because they're not, they were not, you would feel it as they were expressing not being stupid, but that the last one to leave was definitely the leader of their squadron. Total damage of 5 with 2 effects. So I just want to. We'll get to Baz's results in a minute. What do you want to share with people over the next few days about that? Oh, and the Epos are very cheerful. You are the one of the crew who notes that the Vulcan remains in the guest quarters, but every day for about an hour, the Cation walks down to visit the Epos, and the Cation also goes down to the sickbay, which is another scene we'll get to here in a moment. So Waitley, what would be like the reaction of the things that you can feel? Mostly the Epos, and once they're healed, they're like bundles of happy again. That's what they're like.
All right, so whenever he senses the Epos, anybody around him would notice he seems uncomfortable. The best way to describe his reaction anytime the Epos come into his mind is he cringes. He doesn't say anything. He doesn't make any comments about it. He just, there's people that just really don't like dogs. They're not, rude about it, but you can always tell they don't like dogs. That's Waitley. That is his exact reaction to it. He does find the bond. Oh, cripe. Who did the Epo bond to again? I can't remember now. Kara, yes. He does take note of that and find it very interesting. And if he ever gets the opportunity to, because I don't know who he is doing regular counseling sessions with.
None of the main characters so far.
Yeah, but if he does get the opportunity to speak with her kind of off the record, they're just like in line for the water cooler or whatever, he will make a comment about that and say that he finds it extremely fascinating. Other than that, pretty much everything that he reads, that he knows, especially when it comes to the Orions and everything, he shares with the captain and Graves. Beings as they all are sitting there constantly next to each other.
Right. They're the command staff and that circle. Yeah.
Yep. He is very quiet. He is very reserved. But when something comes to mind that he feels the captain, the command structure should know, he'll look for an opportunity to say, Captain, this is what I just sensed from the Orions, and I feel that it is of utmost interest that particular last raider captain was so reluctant to disengage.
Responds, looks at, she would respond, look at Graves, and this is probably the next day or something during that shift, and she would look at Graves and she would say, that's something we could use. If they come back, that is.
Did when they left, when that all thing, obviously we know the Orion matron, her attitude. When they left, did they have the vibe that they wanted to come back as we'll get you someday?
The last thing he said had the air of a threat on it. He said, Mina will not deal with you so peacefully.
What was his when he said that name, what exactly was he thinking?
She's the matron.
Okay. Well, I mean, as far as
he is who he obeys.
What he meant by that, she will not deal with you so.
Oh, she will not deal with you so peacefully. He thinks of her as brutal and ruthless.
Okay. So after that exchange, he would have said, more than likely what is going to happen, Captain, is they are going to ambush us at some point. That is my assessment of what just transpired.
Okay. If they come back, let's just remember, that one could be easy to provoke. And that very same day that you guys leave, there's still a few days to go to get to your new location. The patient in sickbay wakes up Dr. O'Connor, and he says, Starfleet sickbay.
Yep.
That's
welcome
good.
to sickbay. Yep. Morning. You want some coffee?
Yeah, sure.
All right, quick question. Can you see out of your left, right? Which can you see out of both of your eyes?
Can you see out of your left eye? And he closes his other eye and he goes, yeah.
Okay, that's good. That is fantastic. So I didn't need to operate. That's good.
You see physician's assistant Bond is already over at the replicator after you offered him coffee. Yep, we're getting there, Kara. And she's already ordering the coffee, and he says, "So, did the captain and Ron make it?"
I sip my coffee.
You find it.
Say again?
I was going to say, you find it funny, maybe, I don't know, but it's definitely of note that the Cation rolled his R at the beginning of his name. It was like Ron, kind of, right? And this guy just calls him Ron. We have a Cation named Ron in the game. I did that on purpose. But yeah, this guy says, did the captain and Ron also make it?
I sip my coffee in a newly acquired and cleaned Bozeman Titans cup.
A coffee cup, yep.
Yep. I wonder where that came from. No, it's the right coffee. I just put the mold in a different thing.
I understood that reference.
Okay.
Nice.
And I tell him, yes, your friends did make it. They were the only ones that weren't in need of medical attention, in fact.
It was, last thing I know is the engines blew up, and that makes me just happy to be waking up.
Yeah, they blew up right in your face. It wasn't pretty, but I fixed you. You're looking good. Here's a mirror.
Takes the mirror, looks at himself, and he's like, I believe you, but, wow.
Yeah, you had
So
something
where
really
are,
bad.
where, he says, where are my crew and I going? And you actually don't know that answer.
That is a good question. Also, just so you're aware, I had to open you up. Your ribs were going to stab you in the heart like some treacherous bastards. So, fix that for you. Now,
He
let's.
checks his side, and he's like, sorry. He checks his side, and he's like, didn't look like I had surgery.
Because I did such a damn good job.
On, like, spits her coffee back out into her glass and goes back, like, she turns away to find work to do so that she doesn't laugh out loud at that was awesome. Like, you can tell that that's a laugh of I love this guy kind of thing. And we leave our sick bay with that's because I did such a damn good job, with 3 people drinking coffee, and he introduces himself to you as Barat Desh. He's an engineer.
How do I spell that?
Baretsh. First name Barat, last name Desh. He's an independent engineer. So, the information that Quentin would have approaching this planet, we are approaching our commercial break. The information for Quentin to think about as we approach this planet, and for other people to think about as well, it is a fully M-class world. There is no reason that life cannot exist on it. And I think actually Genic would be really good to be getting this information too, to make sure that Tactical has it. What you've got is a fully M-class planet. It's totally capable of supporting life, of supporting animal life, but it has none. It has a great deal of vegetation, however, some of it growing very, very large. That's what you know about the planet, and that a survey ship, the USS Hiawatha, had detected low power, very short range radio signals coming from that planet. And that is the next stop of the USS Reliant as it's warping through space with some new guests on board, some new cargo, and an unexplored M-class world in the Delta Volantis cluster in front of you. And out there somewhere, angry Orions. And if you think they're the only pirates in the universe, you're gonna find out that you're mistaken. Kendra is walking back on to Chief Tactical, and Tardigrade is incredibly distracted. That's where I think we're picking up. Take 2. Click.
Kendra walks onto the bridge somewhat out of breath. Oh, I need a Rectigino. Tardigrade.
Lieutenant Tardigrade holds up his picture of the Venetian canals drawn in red circles.
Very, very nice artwork there. I have an important job for you. Are you up to the task?
He salutes.
Okay, I need you to listen very closely. We have some special passengers that we just beamed aboard. I don't know if you caught that, but we've got a bunch of Epos.
He nods.
Well, They are very energetic, and I just spent the last, oh, I don't even know how long it was, chasing and catching them, and I really don't want to have to do that again. So you are going to be in charge of making sure that number one, they do not escape their cages. Number two, they stay happy. And number three, nobody messes with them that's not supposed to. Can you do that for me?
Lieutenant Tardigrades asks if he can enlist the exocomp as a junior security officer.
Yes. Just make sure.
Remember, at this point, Marcus is in command of the bridge. Just pointing that out too.
Okay, sorry.
The captain is helping them. I'm just pointing that out for Duncan's sake. He would have access to hearing this.
Marcus is not surprised.
And the captain was getting the guests into guest quarters.
Just make sure that the Epos stay in their cages, that they're happy and safe, and that nobody messes with them. And if you have any problems with the Epos, I want you to contact Kara, okay?
Lieutenant Tardigrade salutes again.
All right. Thank you for manning my station while I was away.
Lieutenant Tardigrade takes the exocomp by the whatever equivalent of a hand it has currently and proceeds
gets a little
to the
front.
pages.
Awesome. I like that. Jenik, you realize this means that the station that you were sitting at is going to be your station until Tardigrade's job changes. Shenanigans. So on Alpha Shift, Marcus, on Alpha Shift rather, Jenik, you are now filling the second tactical slot. So,
Janik just sighs and mentally questions how in the world, or what in the world, Lieutenant Tardigrade's role on the ship is.
The ship, after 6 days, the patient Barat goes to join his crewmates in the quarters. The journey over the next 6 days is, aside from interaction where you guys do get to know each other, you have some information on the planet that you're approaching, and the ability to either like compare notes with each other and I'll give you more information, or look to your skills as you're like approaching the system that this planet is in. The star of the system is very, very small, but it burns very hot. It is a white star.
As we come into the system, Kara makes sure to keep one of the moons between us and the planet. We have radio signals coming from the planet, Captain. Can never be too cautious.
She looks over at Reynolds and says, "Quentin, what do we have down there?" And it's time for one of those wonderful rolls that our ship is so good at making. Science time.
I will do science to it. Okay.
We get to do science to it.
So is it going to be 2 or 3?
It's 2 dice. You can spend a momentum to get a third dice.
I just didn't know if the ship was rolling with this.
The ship is going to be able to assist. It has it has very good. The only roll I really need to see is if it's going to crit, but I don't think it will. But what does a talent do for him, Baz?
Well, what's the talent? What talents do you have?
Spirit of Discovery sounds like you're about to scan for the first time an unexplored world. It sounds like it might apply. It's a talent.
Racial.
Might be racial. He's human, so.
Yes, I think that is a human.
Yeah.
Yeah, Spirit of Discovery is one of the racial talents for humans.
Okay, yeah, you have the drive, spirit, and courage to voyage into the unknown. You must pay 1 determination to add 3 points The group momentum pool. Normal
Ow.
conditions suspending determination still apply.
Neat. Okay. So yeah, it's 2 dice, and the ship is rolling a die for you. The ship has gotten a success. I figured that it would.
I got a 7 and a 1.
That's a critical success.
Total of 4.
Total of 4. When I was thinking 2, you build 2 momentum, and you have down there appears very old. There are a it's on one continent of the planet. There are a number of what seem like ancient radio transmitters that have been set up. They don't appear to be in good condition. They don't appear to have been upkept. And there's no indication of any other civilization or anything existing. But there are probably a dozen of them, dozen of these ancient radio transmitters that are broadcasting very, very short signals that are creating kind of an intersection of radio waves over that continent. Short range, low power, and all on one continent. Maybe I'm going to go ahead and give it a real number. That number is 13. There are 13 of them.
Subspace radio, terrestrial radio.
Old school broadcast radio.
Captain, I'm detecting a number of transmission sites on the planet. It appears to be old tech radio frequencies from before the discovery of subspace radio. They appear to be they appear to be automated systems.
Are they all operational? Quick look tells you that they are all operational, but 2 are not transmitting as strongly as the others.
They do all appear to be operational, though I am noticing fluctuations in 2 of the transmitters. Do I need to make a separate roll to try and throw this through the universal translator and see if it's a language or if it's a data stream?
Okay, you would make another roll, yes. Science it. The ship can also assist with a 2, which is it's always considered to have a focus, so the ship gives you 2 successes.
Okay, I got a 13 and an 8.
4 successes. You build 2 more momentum. You guys, on whatever rolls you got coming up, you should spend that momentum.
Yes.
So, hey, Sidekick's back.
So momentum, by the way, too, to keep.
Okay, so you guys are at maximum momentum currently. 2 and 4 of that just came from these science rolls. It's awesome. This ship does science so well. It is not a language. There is it is data being transmitted over radio frequencies, and that data doesn't seem to hide. It has some similarity to really, really old Starfleet force field technology. But the data itself is not that technology. However, as I said, in an interesting way, the fact that where these transmitters are located, the whole continent is covered in these radio waves. So. that contains some similarity to data that was utilized in early Starfleet force field technology.
Captain, analysis of the signals indicate that their data streams, it seems to be more of an information handling system for possibly some manner of containment system or some other.
You get a better handle on what it is down on the planet. Everything we see says it's M class.
I would be able to better interface with it on the yes, Captain.
She looks over at you, Graves, and says, "XO, let's send a team to the planet."
All right.
Okay.
So Marcus Graves is going to be bringing along Janik, Eli Waitley, Alenis, Quentin, and Richter, and himself.
I love that the captain is on the ship with Kara. It makes perfect sense, honestly. So the group of you, as before, when all of you get to the transporter room, your normal loadout of the things that you have available, tricorder, weapon, to make sure your communicators are, basically you have a locker down there that has what you need. And I was getting to that. All of you notice a new part of your standard loadout, which is personal first aid kits that attach to the side of your uniform, like really cool high-tech Velcro. You can put them on an arm, a leg, wherever, but they attach to your uniforms. Oh, yeah, I had been thinking about what they were going to be like. Real quick question: what do we got? What's our question, Nick?
At this point, are we still in cadet uniforms, or are we just wearing whatever the hell we want to wear? Like you said,
you're in cadet uniforms still.
Yeah.
So all of you have that like right now the team on the transporter pad looks like a unit of Starfleet cadets and transporter operator who we haven't named yet. Energizing, and all of you see that vision of your transporter room disappear as this silver light falls over your vision, and it's like this long waves of silver drop in front of you, and as the wave comes to an end, you are someplace else. You are standing close to a large, I wouldn't call it a forest, I would call it a woods, with very large trees that have gigantic leaves. Not like, but imagine when I say gigantic, these trees are like the height of drive-in movie screen, and the leaves that are hanging down off of them they hang like weeping willow leaves, but they're as big as like palm leaves that are hanging off of these trees. You're near what would definitely seem like a long grass pasture. The grass has kind of a more yellow color to it than Earth, which was the last planet that all of you were on. So the grass is a little bit yellow next to these gigantic trees, and not a quarter mile away, there is a metal. I don't want to call it a structure because it's not. It's like a metal triangle with no. It's like a metal pyramid with no sides, and it has obviously some old technology hooked up to it, and that's what you are faced with on the planet. What would you all like to do?
I'd like to see if I can do some power reading scans.
Here, absolutely. Certainly can. Rick Tier's character sheet. That would be, what would we call this? As reason and science or insight and science? Power scans, we could call it engineering.
I'd say reason.
Okay, so you're looking for a 15.
Okay, I might as well use a momentum for an extra dice. Might as well.
Why not?
Just need to find. Yes, here we go. 6, 15, and 18.
15 and 18. So that's 2 successes. You can pick up that the power source for this radio, this broadcast unit, you can tell that the power source is kind of like right next to it. And you can tell that it's nothing more than a souped up battery, but you're picking up a technology that your scanner isn't reading properly. You can't pin down. Most of it, you can say the origin of it is old school Terran radio tech. Most of it you can read that, but the power source, despite mostly being that, there's something else going on with the power source that you're going to need to get a closer look at.
Energy readings are certainly familiar with terrestrial broadcast signals. Something with the power, though, that I'm not quite picking up. It's something a bit different.
Well, I would be doing a full spectrum scan for all the things. Age of the system, what type of energies it's putting out. I could probably keep going, go down the list of sciences.
Let's start with a roll and see how good you do on the roll, which will be sciencing it. And then with the momentum, you can also remember, guys, spend momentum to gain extra information. In this case, it's 15 is your number. What's up, Az?
And don't forget that he automatically gets 1 free obtain information.
Ooh, what's that from?
As the main science officer. Do you also have Studious?
Awesome. Yes, he does.
Yeah, so that's also another free one.
Right on. So you're going to get 2 extra pieces of information already. Yeah, so your number is 15. It's not really, when you guys, it's kind of archaeology, but not really archaeology. But archaeology and anthropology, with everything that you're scanning, I'm going to say that your focuses apply, but like in this case, it took both of those focuses working in unison to give you the bonus of that. So 15 is your target number. You get criticals on a 4 or less and 2 free pieces of information.
Yeah, so guys, momentum that we've banked, because I got 2 17s.
Momentum.
Go ahead. You can you spend more than 1, Baz?
Yeah, so for momentum, if you want to re-roll 1 dice, it's 2 momentum. Or if you want to re-roll up as many as you want to, you can spend a determination if you think that's appropriate.
If you have and yeah. I think now would be a good time to roll to use your determination.
Is
it bad?
No, I just
typed wrong.
Oh, you typed the wrong thing in. I see.
And it wouldn't let me correct it. There we go.
2 successes plus 2 free pieces of information. You guys have 4 momentum remaining. You needed 2 successes to get all of the information, was what I was thinking. So first questions you had were, how old is it? You think it is... Actually, you know that it's 21st century technology. Based on its age and the fact that in this location anyway, a number of plants have grown over most parts of it, during their normal growth cycle, outside of the power source. The power source doesn't have any plant growth over it, but the you would guess that this technology is all placed at 21st century.
21st century era technology, or that it's 400 years old?
Yes, so it's like 400 years old. That's why I was letting archaeology apply. This is very, very old, and it's transmitting on tight band frequencies this information, and it looks like the information from all of the data streams exists in this area. Like you could say we can probably find everything from all of the stations from this station in terms of data and information that you could grab. One interesting thing is that there is communication that is in near perfect English, but imagine just different. I don't even know if I can think of it. Just imagine like a different cadence to the way that the information that is linguistic is It's obviously a very old form of English, like 400 years old. That the basically they were. There's what you can get from it is they, whatever they were abandoning this site here during their 3rd dynasty because an alien cybernetic force, the likes of which they had never encountered, was recorded in history through the 1st and 2nd dynasties. And the 3rd dynasty was to abandon this site and find a new home. It looks
you're not going to have to scan 5 towers.
No, and it looks like the data is the different frequencies that it's using. They are alternating and they change. They are constantly, that little shield, they are constantly keeping a rotating, modulating shield of data over this area of the continent. And therein is your 3rd clue. Before the game, I gave you guys 3 clues. It's not easy being green. There are Orions. The 7 dwarves had a job. You've already been to a mine. And here, this is definitely not the 3rd Borg dynasty, but it is a 3rd dynasty. And it's at that point that I'm going to actually, I won't make you guys use it, but I'm going to suggest the use of a momentum on the 2 information gathering rolls you've done so far.
He could be tricking us.
Could be tricking you. That's true. I could be tricking you, but I'm not.
We have plenty of momentum, so we might as well use it anyway.
Lieutenant Tardigrade didn't push that button for a reason, so.
Baz, it is extra information for your scan. The technology, it's very minor, and it's what it's doing is it's keeping this battery regenerating. It doesn't look like it's actually connected in any way to anything, but there is the part of the power source has Borg technology worked into it, and it appears that that technology is what's keeping the power running for 400 years, and probably will keep it running for 400 more.
So at the mention of Borg, Janek immediately starts scanning for any Borg signatures.
On the planet and in your immediate vicinity, you do not have one. However, up on the ship, Kara, you're keeping a standard orbit above the continent that your away team is on, when from the tactical station, Larissa says, "Captain, we've got incoming warp signatures to us. The first one's going to arrive in a minute."
Kara immediately moves to take the ship behind the moon, hoping to hide in the moon's shadow from sensors.
He nods at you, taking the initiative in doing that, and she taps her comm badge and she says, "XO, this is the Reliant. How are we doing down there?"
We may have found some Borg tech.
Borg tech.
Kara sits straight up in her chair.
Is that in any way connected with the broadcast?
Quite possibly. So it's connected up to, actually, I was still in the cargo bay, so off for a moment, so I can re-clarify. The Borg tech, is it connected to the 21st century equipment? Okay.
It does not look like assimilated technology. However, it looks like somebody jury-rigged a little bit of Borg tech into this to keep it running for hundreds of years.
The Borg tech is incorporated into the device, but I wouldn't say it's been assimilated into it.
Okay, that's better news. she actually lets out a sigh of relief that you can hear over the comms, everybody on the planet, and that you can definitely hear on the bridge. She lets out a sigh of relief and she says, "Okay, that's better."
Did I detect any sort of force fields or anything? Because if the technology is vaguely force field, that means it might be containing something.
You can say that for certain the data streams that are being used as, being sifted above radio in radio waves are definitely they're using modulating radio frequencies, and it's forming like a. From looking at the scans that you took from above, there's an obvious dome around an area of this continent being generated by these 13 radio towers.
So it's FM, not AM radio. Just need to clarify.
Well, if it's modulating it, which has to be.
Well, AM is amplitude.
Amplitude, yeah.
It's FM is frequency modulation.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're doing, whoever set this up, this third dynasty that left this place, whoever set this up, you would guess, looking at it, they very intentionally set this up to be modulating frequencies that form a dome-like shield. That's definite.
Then I would break in with Graves and say, "Captain, it is worth noting that this sequence of towers appears to be operating a containment system, and I cannot tell you at the moment if it's keeping something in or out."
All right. keep investigating, and at that moment, all of you hear over the comm Larissa from the tactical station say, "A minute's up. We'll get back to you." She taps her comm badge, cutting off the communication to the planet, and says, "Red alert, shields up, and a vessel that is not an Orion vessel system right in front of you." What does it
Tara
look
immediately
like?
puts the engines into reverse to open up a little bit of room.
Okay, they don't advance. But what does the ship look like, Duncan?
Okay, so let me get it real quick.
Awesome. You have it so that we can see.
We'll say once there's a kilometer, she stops. It's just one of those things of nose to nose is never where you want to be.
The ship just went to red alert, which means the shields are up, which means you guys are on the planet and the ship is on the ship, which means, Duncan, you don't have to play against yourself.
Oh, thank goodness, because that means that the ship didn't make the scene person.
Okay, got a design. Older sketch, but it'll work. The one I wanted was
here
too
it
big.
comes. Here it comes into the game chat, I assume, right? Game time chat?
Yep. It's uploading right now. Full 4 megabytes.
Wow. Oh, that's neat. I like the look of that. It's got some obvious guns in the front of it.
Let's go with a dark, sort of metallic black and metallic blue.
Okay.
So sort of the back component is black, the sort of the plate-like structures are metallic blue, and that front component is a bright shining white.
Nice. I really like that. A spiky ship comes out of warp right in front of you. Now, the question that I have is, would that ship hail them? Duncan. This is the knowledge that your pirate captain, that the pirate captain they're about to experience, has. There was a huge shipment of living animals that are worth a ton of either latinum or credits, or and it was moving. You got word that it was moving through here, and then you discovered that it was that all of that was taken aboard one Starfleet vessel, a small Starfleet vessel at that. And that is and it is the only Starfleet vessel aside from distant patrol ships that is even anywhere near. It's the only ship operating in the Delta Volantis cluster right now. So that is the knowledge that the pirate captain has when that ship appears on the screen. What happens?
Just so I'm clear, the cargo is the Epos, correct?
Correct. They are going for a king's ransom to settlers on New Romulus. They are going farther money-wise to Romulans in what are they? Why am I blanking? Because I need the word right now. Romulan outposts, Romulan colonies. That's what I was thinking. Colonies, Romulan colonies that don't have Epos native to their planet. They they are bringing a great sum of money to those people. But they're also even bigger, bringing money on black market EPO trade, because certain people can get bigger prices and they'll pay you a slightly bigger price if you can bring them these creatures.
The pirate captain just very casually opens a hailing frequency.
Hey, on the bridge, Kara and wow, Kara is the only one still on the bridge of player characters. I love it. Kara and Cole and Larissa at Tactical. Larissa says, "We're being hailed." Captain just she just holds up her left hand and has one finger up and then drops that finger. Larissa opens the channel. And what do they see on the screen?
They see it's a dimly illuminated bridge, a little bit hazy. Definitely there are no control consoles they can see. They may be able to see some small lights, but it's very well concealed to reveal no information on that. So all they see is basically darkened room, something in the back, and one solitary Ibby in the captain's seat, with a light shining down straight above him.
I like that.
Kara sits upright, slightly in disbelief.
The captain says, "Well, you have me at a disadvantage. Your ship."
Aye, that you don't, and that I'll leave you to ponder on your own right. Now, I am here on a matter of business. That business was interrupted when one of my compatriots decided not to honor a bargain. It is very straightforward, very contractual. Now, I simply ask you if you have picked up any miscellaneous stowaways on your adventure. They need to be taken to their proper place.
I think you have a different word for. We don't call them stowaways. We call them guests.
Call them what you might, but by various trade rights, which I don't think the Federation would like to get itself involved in, they do belong to me.
I don't think that Captain Rurik and his crew belong to anyone.
I'm not talking about
except for Captain Rurik and his crew.
I'm not talking about the blasted crew. I'm talking about what they were containing.
Bows? And Larissa says out loud, because the channel is still open, but Kara, you hear Larissa say, 12 more warp signatures coming in, and we're going to learn how to do starship combat tonight.
Now, just out of curiosity, are the ships coming in Orion? So at this point, the Ibby abruptly cuts communications, and you see him rotate the chair just before the comm goes off.
Nice. What warps into the system is I can't think of the name of the class of the ship that launches raiders. Marauder? Is that what? No, it can't be a Marauder. Slave Master Battleship. That's the one. You see one Slave Master Battleship with 2 squadrons of 5 raiders each, sitting in. They come in its warp wake already launched, so that almost like as soon as the ship exits warp, they are moving out. In addition, there are. That's the one. In addition, there are. Would be 4. No, I said 12. I meant 15, because in addition to those 11, there's that one smaller one that doesn't launch ships that looks very similar to the one that we just saw, and then there are Orion corvettes, and Orion corvettes are small Millennium Falcon sized ships, but it equals with with both squadrons of fighters, the main ship, and so Larissa says out loud, actually, 15 warp signatures incoming now. And these Orions, there you go. Is that the little fighter that you just posted up in game chat?
No, that's the Tier 6 carrier.
Oh, nice. But up in space, we consider them guests. You mean the Epos? An Orion mini fleet drops into the system. Trying to think if there would be a hail. Probably not. That's a pretty one. That's the one that's launching the ships at you. That's the one right there. I like that. The Corsair. Is that the smaller one?
Yeah, it's relatively small one. Now, again, just for a little bit of information, how large is the other pirate ship?
Other pirate ship, the Ibby ship and the Orion main ship are both one size category bigger than the Reliant.
Okay. So
the Ibby ship and the Orion carrier are the same size.
Okay, so it is bigger. It's the same size as the carrier, but it's got the support craft along with it as well. So
yes, it has 12 raiders, the small Orion raiders, and it's got so let's see that it plus 10 raiders. Sorry, it plus 10 raiders is 11, and then it's got 4 of those like Millennium. I don't know what class it is. They're a smaller Orion ship that doesn't launch fighters.
Yeah,
I want to call them corvettes.
Okay, so just
probably wrong.
So just considering my tactical options here. So okay, carry on.
What does Kara do?
Kara immediately starts moving the ship away from the closer pirate ship and at an angle to the other ones, trying to open up as much distance between both groups as possible while waiting for orders from the captain.
Hey, I like that. What we would see kind of in the camera view would be all 3 of those ships, the Ibby ship, the Reliant, and now that Orion, the biggest Orion ship and the ships that are flanking it, the small raiders just kind of dart up and around, and they don't take any attack patterns, but they're darting around the other Orion vessels, in and out and around. And so you've got this like standoff of like 3 cool looking ships, and Kara, you like maneuver your ship into where that is, and Cole sits back in her chair and she says, "Larissa, I don't care which one, get me one of those vessels on the con." Kara, be ready to move. You good with that?
Aye, ma'am.
And she looks.
Kara Kara puts in some warp coordinates, although she's really hoping she doesn't have to use it.
When you say aye, ma'am, she says, "You fly. We'll deal with the rest." And a moment later, Larissa says, "Ma'am, doesn't say ma'am. She says, Captain, I've got the Orion on. I've got the Orion on the channel." And it's way back in one of the other chats, and hey, Kendra, share your picture of I downloaded it because you did it and it was perfect, and I was like, oh, right on. She's dressed like an Orion, not like a Homeland character. But yes, it's Claire Danes as an Orion. She has the Orion crown, not the biggest of them, not the one that looks like it would be too heavy to carry almost, but the one the one that just has the extended middle part and a gem in the center. No, she is not Melanie Dion. Baz had the Google foo 2 weeks ago, and we looked up the three possible names, and I think one of them was Mina, and that's why I went with Mina. But if it's not one of those three names, then we're going to retro change it. Yes, something like that. That's the uniform. That's the headdress that she has on. From what you can see, she's got all of that Orion finery, along with a bunch of silks hanging off of it. It's the colors that. The colors that she wears are black and blue, actually. That's so that area where you see white is actually heavy metallic, like in the first picture there in game chat. That area where you see like the silvery color on what she's wearing, it's actually a very dark metal color. And the Orion leader's name is Mina. Awesome, I did remember correctly. That is, by the way, Green Dragoon, that is one of the three Orions in the bar on Quonos that used to be there. I think they might still be there. That used to be Foundry contacts that you could use on Quonos. So I was like, hey, this is a Foundry after Foundry game. Let's use characters from the Foundry. So yes, it's that woman appears on your screen, dressed like the second picture there, and looking like the work that Kendra did to make Claire Danes look like an Orion, which I think is so great. I like that her eyes are like brownish gold in color, and that really works for me. And she comes up on your screen and says, I can hardly wait to see what you think you might have to offer. Cole steps forward and she says, I've got nothing to offer, except all of us leaving here alive. Your ships, our ships, no fighting. I know what you were chasing that traitor for. Simple cargo. Well, now that cargo's on my ship, and that puts it under Starfleet jurisdiction. And I know that your government, since you do work for a government now, to start an incident over this. So, and when the phasers and disruptors start firing, keep an eye on where ours go. Cut the channel. And Cole sits back down and says, well, let's hope the pirate captain in the spiky ship is a smart individual. Your holding pattern. Back on the planet. And Kara, think about what you would like to do now that this is happening on the bridge. You're experiencing it from a different perspective too. You've got an Ibby out there.
Well, I don't know anything about him.
Ibby pirate captain out there. But
I do have several different. Yeah, I have a couple ideas for what to do if we get into combat, but until somebody shoots or the captain says go, she's just watching tensely.
Then as you're watching tensely and keeping your piloting fingers ready to go, she looks back up to the tactical station and she says, you let me know the second anyone's weapons go hot. Meanwhile, on the pirate ship, what does the Ibby captain do?
Ooh, good question. So at this point, the Ibby captain is waiting for effectively the firing to begin, the shooting to begin. So he is basically just biding his time in watching both of the fleets, but his ship is slowly backing sort of off and to the side, so it's not in the immediate line of fire.
Okay, does Kara adjust? Because the Orions do. They keep this tense, like, triangle, all of you facing each other, as the Ibby tries to back away. I'm going to say that very likely the Ibby has at least come to the attention of this Orion pirate captain.
Kara immediately takes a direction that is directly opposite the Ibby. So Kara is now moving the Reliant directly opposite the Ibby and splitting the distance between them. The Orions hopefully should have to pick one or the other.
Right on. So it's it becomes very tense in space. And we go to the planet where the thing that we hear is the captain is Larissa. You hear over the comms, all of you who are still fairly close together. Larissa says, "A minute's up." Captain says, "We'll get back to you," and cuts the comm. And your away team, 6 people, are there on the planet, picking up the information that you can get from this tower. Quentin, you got an automatic, when you made your roll, an automatic 2 information gathers. So and I'll let you guys confer on this, obviously. What are the 2 pieces of information you would most like to get about the radio signal, the radio towers that are producing this signal? What among you, what do you guys, you have 2 free gain informations, and you still have 3 active momentum. You could spend 1. Any of you could say, hey, this is a good spot to do it. It's up to you guys.
I still like the question. We don't know if it's keeping things out or things in. So that's a question of, if it's keeping things out, then there may be something valuable there, maybe associated with the pirates, but unlikely given the status of the technology. If it's keeping something out, then that may be of use in flipping the tactical situation if it's not just ground-based. So we need to know what is inside the containment field, or if there's any clues that would help us resolve the possibilities.
How effective a containment field can it be? I mean, we beamed down here without any issue. It hasn't been interfering with our scans or communications.
They're not in it right now.
When Rosso says that it hasn't been interfering with scans or communications, it just makes you double check your scans, and there is a dead zone right in the center. And Quentin, you're picking this up too, because you had so many gather information things. There's a dead zone that your scanners are not tapping here, that you cannot. It's maybe 10 feet wide, no smaller, like 7 feet. There's like a 7-foot diameter circle that you're just not detecting anything on. It's not like you're detecting something bad, so it didn't stand out. It's just it's a dead zone.
That's a very small dead zone,
and that's why, also because it's so small.
And that
Rick,
would indicate that it's on purpose. Yes, I am definitely seeing this.
I think we should go and investigate.
What more do you want to gather from the radio tower? You do know that 400 years ago, there was a civilization here, able to build radio towers and able to jury-rig Borg tech into power source. So they were approximately, and they spoke English. So it's also possible there was an ancient colony here or something. So,
which is blowing my mind, because if it's Terran level technology, because at the time of first contact, that humanity didn't have force field technology or much luck with integrating Borg technology, but they've done
exactly.
both. And I want to study the crap out of it. By the way, are we aware of the tactical situation above us?
Oh, you heard Larissa say a minute's up, and the captain say, we'll get back to you.
Kendra taps her con badge. Tardigrade, how are things going up there?
He says has the situation with the Epos well in hand. They've got food and extra fluffy blankets.
Okay, sounds good. Kendra turns to Graves. Permission to go investigate this dead zone?
We need to see if we can find out more about this civilization, I think.
Indeed, it may explain the interest in the system. So we need to proceed carefully because, again, we do not know the situation. We don't know what's here or if there are any other traps involved. Now, let me just take a quick look. I've got to hit that, unhit the microphone. So just a second. Now, in proceeding with a course of action, can I try to detect how dangerous that course of action is with the difficulty modifier from constantly watching? Basically, make it easier to find out if we're going to get someone killed.
I think so, yeah.
Okay, so with constantly watching in mind, Graves is going to take a quick scan of the area and try to identify any power sources or tricorders have to be able to set to a pattern recognition of recent disturbance from a humanoid.
Yeah. If you want to try tracking something.
Tracking any sign of humanoid mood disturbance in the area and technology.
Does not look like any life has moved around here aside from the flora for 400 years.
And with one last caution, any unusual pathogens. Down to the level of
I like that question. I like that question. Any unusual pathogens? Yes. There is a highly aggressive allergen in the air that you think anybody that had standard allergies would be hating it down here. And it's only that it's the thing that's different about it is it is aggressively potent as far as pollen sort of things go. Does exist here.
Okay.
But actual pathogens that would do your body harm, no. It looks like everything here is fully capable of supporting life.
Okay, so we're going to proceed. We're at one of those radio towers. There is the blanking field effectively above us. We're going to proceed towards the center of where the centroid of where the towers are distributed.
Awesome. I like that. I like that a lot. I'm going to point out for Kendra, looking at the land that you're in right now, that you could easily support the idea that this could very easily be a colony. This could support life here. You're looking at what farmland you once knew as a little tyke. You're looking at what farmland looks like. Everything here could support probably a thriving farming colony at least. And it probably feels like it takes longer than it actually does. But there is a little bit of a hike involved to where you're stepping, where you're going to, and it does take a good there a lot's going to happen up in the sky in a moment while this all happens to all of you, as about probably a good 20-minute hike to get to where what you were detecting as a dead zone was. And what is in that dead zone appears to be some sort of metal hatch in the ground, surrounded by the grass that is just as long as it is elsewhere. It's what is attached on top of, and that, now the hatch is also sizable. It doesn't take up the full 10-foot dead zone, but it takes up, it's probably like half of, it's probably like a 5-foot diameter hatch that's in the ground. It's what's attached to the hatch that is probably what they're keeping in, you would guess, because you see something like that almost. You see a Borg drone that barely, if you watch it for too long, you'll swear you see it twitch, but it looks long dead, and it looks like it was scavenged for parts. That parts have been pulled off of it at various times, but every once in a while you could swear you see it twitch, and it is held down by what equates to being heavy cable. I can't think of what it might be made of from the 21st century, like I can't imagine what the metal was in the 21st century that would be that heavy cable would be made of. But deutanium, sure, it's made of deutanium heavy cable that held it here, and also appears that there is technology equivalent to what you found linking the power source with the radio. Basically, the same people could have built what you're seeing right here by hooking the drone's power directly into a locking mechanism on the door, or on the hatch rather. And that's what you guys find about 20 minutes later.
So just as a quick check, we don't know about that episode of Enterprise, do we?
Oh.
Okay, just making
the
sure.
One where the Borg actually existed in the North Pole, and yeah, your characters wouldn't, but it is canon. The Borg did exist in like long time ago Earth or something. I can't remember the episode too well, but I know it was on Enterprise.
Yeah, so it was the wreckage that was left behind during the first contact incident that was left behind, frozen in the Arctic or Antarctica, and then it was discovered at the time of Enterprise and launch then. So,
Yeah, they inadvertently awoke a Borg drone, which attempted to try and reform a collective.
That's when.
So, in fact, Marcus, you have that information. No one else does. It is considered clearance level information. You are the XO of this mission. You have that information. You know that Borg did exist in the Alpha Quadrant at the time of the first, the very first starship to bear the name Enterprise.
So he can't put it together yet, but he's suspecting that that incident may be connected with this one, but is proceeding very cautiously. He recognizes the salvage operation as potentially, his thought is survivors from a downed ship, not necessarily linked to the collective, just because the straps do appear to be using, well, you're effectively holding someone down, which suggests that they are not cooperating. The Borg would not do that to one of their own if they're functioning in a state. He doesn't know if those that did it would necessarily be free from the collective, but he's suspecting Borg drones that have been disconnected at some points. The way the radio transmitters work would also, and here he actually, let's just say he's elaborating on this. The way the radio transmitters were set up would also suggest that this was not a group of drones with the capacity or full capacity of this Borg.
True.
So there may be technology or biological material here of interest or potential danger, particularly nanites. So extra containment protocols, as getting to the ship or returning to the ship immediately may not be possible at this time.
I'm going to ask, as you guys arrive, for Rick Tier and Quentin, who both have been doing the scanny scans. Both of you should roll for your science and engineering, respectively.
Okay, I'm gonna.
And, yeah.
I'm gonna
And what
use
is
a
Dr.
momentum.
O'Connor doing?
We're with the rest of them, right? I was asking that in chat, but nobody.
Yeah, everybody was staying together, I thought. I was just wanted to I'm going up the list, and I was like, okay, so what is Dr. O'Connor doing here? And then we'll ask for what the two security officers are doing here, and Chaplain Waitley. So right now we're at medical. This is what you guys all can see.
All right, so you said there's a dead Borg drone.
It's dead, yeah, but you'd almost swear it twitches.
I want to go over there, but not too close. Not too close. Way out of arm's reach. Want to catch the fucking. I'm sorry, no cursing. The part of the scanny part of my medical tricorder, and just attach that to a stick and just scan it from a distance.
Okay. Let's see. So Baz and I'll get right there. So you may also make a medical scan on the thing, which would be reason and medicine. Is going to give you your number that you have to get under, and you have xenobiology, the Borgs, and you have prosthetics and cybernetics, both focuses that apply. So you have a 14 is your target number to get underneath, and you crit on a 4 or less on the medical scan. Baz, do you have a crit there?
No.
Can I roll now?
Yep, absolutely.
2!
That's a crit, so you have 2 successes. Baz has 3 successes. What does Quentin have?
Quentin got a 2 and an 8.
A 2 and an 8.
A 2 and an 8. Did I miss? Oh, it got caught above the lost picture. 2 and 8. Okay. All of you have a multitude of successes, catapulting your group back to 6 momentum, because none of you needed as many as you got, which is awesome. From medical scans, Dr. O'Connor, this creature is not dead.
I slowly back up like nobody.
Its organic components are long atrophied, but still functional because of the Borg tech that is keeping them going. And in this, it's kind of, when you look at this, when you're the first one to get a little bit closer, and this is kind of a horrific sight, actually, because this thing was, it's been it's had parts pulled out of it, so like one section of its eye and skull is just gone. But yeah, your medical scans detected that the organic components are still functioning.
Guys, this thing isn't dead.
It goes without saying, Janek has had his phaser fully trained on this Borg drone the entire time.
As you detect that there is specifically one dangerous function of the Borg that is still operating. Its transmitter. It's not a threat. It can't even move, most likely. It's in no way a physical threat to you guys, but its transmitter, which any Borg vessel could pick up, is still transmitting. And Quentin, you realize that the modulating data stream of information up above this area is keeping that transmitter from going any farther than this area.
So whoever did it So whoever did it was
And it twitches.
recognizing that this was a signal. It went to some lengths to stop it. I still want to find out who was the other party here, and also just a very strong look to Waitley, like, is there anything here? Is this still conscious?
Actually, can I use a momentum for information?
Yes. What would you like to know?
I want to double check that this Borg is a source of the battery rejuvenation tech.
Yes. The parts that were cannibalized, absolutely. The parts that were cannibalized from this Borg they are definitely some of the parts that you saw helping to keep the battery running. That came off of this Borg are probably all around the area helping keep this shield up.
Kendra inches forward slightly and looks at Waitley. Are you picking anything up off this thing?
What do we roll for telepathy or empathy check from Waitley and from Dr. O'Connor? What kind of check is that, Baz?
I would say Insight Command.
Okay, so I got Waitley's sheet up first. Insight Command is a 15. None of your focuses apply. So you have 2 dice. The group still has 2 focus. At this point, the group has 2 focus. You could use 1 for another die. Your target number is to get 15 or less, Waitley.
I think I did.
You got 2 successes. Is there anything else here? You reach out to the surrounding area to make sure that what you suspected is true. You even kind of like try to reach beyond that hatch. And you don't pick up anything that your role, Dr. O'Connor, you would get the same thing empathy-wise. There's nothing aside, like, now that you've made the roll to focus on it, you can pick up like the slightest twinge of, it's not even a conscious. I'm getting to those guys first, and then we're doing medical, and then we're doing security. So with Waitley and O'Connor, this thing is dead. And now we have our security officer is Jennick following Kendra in as she steps forward toward this thing. Just telling Waitley what he knows.
No, I was just trying to clarify what I was asking Waitley.
But now it's in game. You guys have all the information that you need for boom in game. What do your characters say to each other? What do you do?
I recommend we
I hope I
vaporize
set
this.
the scene well.
You're saying I could feel that he's not like consciously alive, but like just sort of like biologically? Or am I misinterpreting that?
Nope,
Right,
you're interpreting that perfectly.
Because you were cutting out a bit for me, so I wasn't.
Oh, I'm sorry, but yes, you're interpreting that perfectly.
All right.
What does Kendra say to Waitley?
No, you got it. I was misunderstanding what you were saying at first.
Oh, I see. But that's what you are feeling. That's what Waitley's feeling. Nobody else knows that yet. It's just where I'm.
After
Waitley and O'Connor know that.
After sensing that, Waitley glances at O'Connor, he doesn't say anything to him, just kind of a knowing, like, are you reading this too, kind of expression. And he looks at the rest of the group and says, we are not alone. But it's not awake.
Any chance of revival?
Well, there is a lot of his technology is being stripped for the shield. I don't get the idea that he can even move with it.
But its subspace transceiver is active and broadcasting.
Yes.
The shielding system seems to be blocking it from getting further than the localized area.
If you can cannibalize the parts off of this thing, why not just take out the transceiver?
I was wondering the same thing.
And
can I
how did
use
somebody with
another,
Terran level...
Oh, sorry,
Go ahead, Rick.
You finish saying what you were saying. I was going to ask the GM a question.
What I'm more concerned about is that Terran level technology, approximately the time of Earth's first contact, was used to contain a Borg drone, and somehow at the same time have enough ingenuity to integrate Borg technology centuries before we have any experience with it, and also stop a Borg drone.
I like the all of the scientific analysis at first, and to stop a Borg drone. These were people that, as far as you can tell, yes, had 21st century level technology.
I would like to spend a momentum obtain information to see if it's possible to remove the transmitter and disable that, or disable it.
Absolutely. It actually would not be very difficult at all. Would have to go close and actually stick your engineering thingies into the side of its head and flip a switch, but it would not be very difficult to turn it off at all.
Can we just vaporize the body? We really can't leave any Borg tech here.
Marcus comes in with a quick belay that, because there's another component to this, which is the hatch. We've seen two components of a device: a carefully laid out board with a signal that we in Starfleet would clearly recognize as a danger and a threat. If you remove it, we don't know what the repercussions are. Specifically, what happens to anything else here if we disable that? Specifically, what's down that hatch?
Is there any indication that the Borg is integrated into the hatch, be it by power relay or some other manner of connection?
The termination of signals.
The Borg's power is powering the locking mechanism. If you disintegrate the Borg, the locking mechanism will unlock. If you disconnect the Borg, the locking mechanism will unlock. What you're seeing is, think of when I love that that you guys are picking up on the fact that this is first contact timeline for who these people might have been, right? Exactly. It's a Borg battery. That's exactly what they've done here. This Borg was a battery to hold this door shut.
Can we get any sensor information of what's beyond the hatch?
Yes, make a reason science check, which for you is 15. Your target number is does not have any of your focuses apply. So, just 2 dice, crit on a 1, and you need a 15 or less. 14 or less.
15 and 11.
Success, which is all you needed. You may also roll, Rick Tier, and if you want to take a security scan, either Elenis, either Kendra or Janik could also roll. You all have different kinds of information that you can get by using your tricorders. So that's...
Oof. What are we rolling?
Let me, for Janik, it's, I'm going to go with Insight Security. So your target number is 13. None of your focuses apply. So you roll 2 dice, and 13 or less is successful.
How much momentum do we have?
2.
I think I'm going to spend that 2, if possible, to re-roll my complication.
Yeah, let's go ahead and do that.
Okay. All right. You guys are out of momentum for right now.
So that's a 7 and a 15.
Cool. What do we have for? Sorry, I was looking at character sheets. What do I have for Lennis as a 4 and a 17? So that's 1 success. Jenik has an 11 and a 9. That's 2 successes. Rictier has. What do you have?
For a 7 and 15.
15. And what does Quentin have?
Eli also
15 and 11.
Wants a roll.
Oh yeah,
Just
and you could roll a medical. You could see. You could roll a medical scan as well. That's very true. Would Waitley like to run a scan? I mean, he kind of already has run his scan. You know what I mean? In a way, I like that. That's kind of his scan.
Yeah.
What are my
Sometimes
goals?
the tricorder can tell him things that his brain can't.
Sure, you may make a roll on. What did I just say it was? Mother.
It was science.
Insight, and in your case, science or medicine. They're both the same. None of your focuses apply, so criticals are only on a 1. And Eli gets 2 successes on a medical. Okay.
It's also worth pointing out, guys, that the power source for this hatch is on the outside, so it's probably not something on the inside that they want to be able to disable it.
In other words, it's keeping something in, not keeping something out.
I was just muted, but I just said that it's keeping something in.
Not keeping something out.
So Rick's gonna pull out his phaser after he gets whatever information and his.
Okay, I'm gonna start at the top. Quentin with 1 success, doesn't build any momentum back, but that's okay. There is a.
I thought 15 was the target number.
Sorry, I read your stats wrong. It was 14. So it's okay. The 11 is all you needed. It's 1 success was all you needed. You just don't get a momentum build on it. There is a chamber below this hatch that appears to be one room that is large enough to contain a very, I imagine, modern special effects doing POS sort of like computer banks and stuff. There are computer banks down there. You detect that there's one chamber with a lot of computer banks down there. The next roles I see are the security role from Kendra. Kendra, you detect with 1 success, and a very good success at that, you detect that the locking mechanism is trapped. If the Borg is just simply, disconnected, the locking mechanism will essentially freeze in locked position, and also it looks like power will be cut, not all at once, to the chamber below, if the Borg is disconnected. So you discover the trap. Jenik, you discover the trap, and you discover that what it will do is make it a lot harder to break through the hatch, and then it's a very simple kind of trap. It's like 21st century people put it together. But if the Borg is simply disconnected, it will set off a cascading power failure to the computers, which would likely erase any information that is down there. That's what you two get with security, but you guys build 1 momentum back so far on what you're all detecting. Does Marcus want to make any scans, by the way, Duncan?
Read chat. Graves did a roll for improvised explosives for a check.
You also detect that there's like an improvised, it's kind of an explosive. If the Borg is disconnected, just without something happening, it will set off this like improvised explosive that seals the lock shut.
I
Rick
should also
Tier.
mention on that, it was a 9 and a 2, and I have a focus in munitions.
That builds 1 momentum, and you are pretty sure. You're pretty sure that if you track the spot that the Borg is powered in, you're going to find something on the Borg that will help you shut down the whole thing. With that critical, it actually builds you 2 momentum, so you guys are back to 3 because of the critical on the 2. But again, I like giving criticals something cool along with just being, a momentum builder. I like the idea that you critted on it. You actually are the first one to notice that's how we disarm it. It's going to be on the Borg itself. Rick, you detect the chamber that is below, and you also detect multiple power sources that are running multiple computers. They are not connected to the hatch, except in that there is power dampener relay that comes from the hatch technology right into the computer and power technology that's down there. You build the group back up to 4 momentum. Whately gets 1 success, which is what anyone needed. Your tricorder checks this large computer room, is what it seems like, with an independent power source for the computers, and that power source is basically rigged right into the walls with the computers. It's large, just very. What kind of an engine might still be running in there? Like what kind of? I'm not sure about what power source. Yeah, it's not a lot. These are old 21st century computers that have that look of like bright blinking lights and stuff when you guys get down there. With a medical tricorder scan, you can detect that you have 2 successes there, it looks like, Dr. O'Connor. With a medical tricorder scan with 2 successes, you build a point of momentum. You guys are now back to 5 after spending one of you spending your last one on this roll. You can detect that not now. There's no living beings down there now. But your medical tricorder picks up the fact dust that is obviously skin dust, that is hundreds of years old, that has been undisturbed for a very long time. And that is what all of your scans of the area below reveal. And then, Kara, you're sitting very tense at your at your station on the bridge, and not necessarily very tense. I'll leave that up to you. The captain.
No,
says,
you had it correct.
Okay. The captain says, Larissa, bring the weapons online, and Kara, I want you to get ready to break away from this little standoff. I don't like standoffs, but I want you to fly low, and I want you to go over the continent where our away team is. We're going to drop shields, Larissa, for just a moment. She calls down to the transporter room. She calls down to the transporter room and she says, transporter room, you're going to have a window of seconds, so start getting your locks on the away team now, okay? Taps her comm badge. Now, this standoff has been going on for about 15 or 20 minutes. It looks like the IBI captain is trying to back away a few times. Am I correct in that, Duncan?
Well, he's just slowly drifted into a position where his weapon systems will have both groups in view. So he's not in the direct line of fire anymore. He's kind of off to the side.
Kind of what everyone has done.
Yes.
Everyone still has shields up. You can tell you can tell on the pirate ship, and Kara, you hear it reported a couple of times on the bridge of the Reliant. There have been no transporter signals. No one is headed to the planet. Whatever's going to happen happens up here. And then probably coming up on 20 minutes, it seems like Cole has had enough of this standoff, and she gives that series of commands and tells you to be ready, to take you low over the away team. And through the communicator on the planet, through Marcus's communicator, you hear Reliant to Grapes.
Come in, Captain.
How close are you and your team done to investigating anything you need to investigate down there?
We're real close, Captain. We just need to try, I think, one thing, and we should be able to get a significant amount of data that should explain a relatively morbid mystery down here.
Okay. You have 10 minutes. Is that enough?
Graves looks to Janek.
Janek, what do you do? What do you say when she looks?
Yeah, I think if we don't know what's going on here in 10 minutes, we probably have failed.
Understood. Yes, Captain. 10 minutes is all we need.
All right. Reliant out.
I look horrified.
They're like, what? 10 minutes?
I think we need to access those computers.
Waitley, you are in the unique position of knowing that the captain is really tense right now. Like, more so than just whatever she sounded like. The captain is really tense and a little nervous right now. Waitley knows that.
Kendra picked up on the captain's tone of voice and turns to Waitley. Do you think everything's okay?
Muted, Nord.
Yeah, no, sorry. My mouse has decided to randomly decide to not work, and so I was struggling with my mouse to unmute. He looks at Kendra and says, "I do not believe so." And then he's going to tap his communicator. Waitley to the bridge. Is everything okay up there?
Captain, or rather Commander Cole, who is the captain of the mission, responds and says, "We're just staring at a pirate fleet and a pirate ship that's not associated with said same pilot fleet, all here because they want EPOs."
The pirate captain breaks in on this communication and says, "Darn right, we're not associated with that filth."
Waitley's eyes widen and he just looks to Graves.
And Cole says, Cole says, "You think they're filth, huh? Not supposed to be in, but they've got us outnumbered. I like to trust in the capability of this ship, but it's still many more of them than there are of us kind of situation." What does the Ibby pirate captain say back to that?
All he's done, he just broke in for that one comment and then closed the comm again.
She looks at Larissa and she's like, "Did he receive that?" And she goes, "No." She looks over to Kara and says, run the simulations, do whatever you need. We're flying low and very soon. Do whatever you have to do on the planet, Commander.
Hi, Captain.
And she cuts the comm. Kara, make a what are our piloting roles in this game, Baz?
It would definitely be a con roll. I would say probably reason or control to plot
I'm going to
a
say
course.
control. You've got a target number of 15, Kara. And ship flight and piloting completely applies. So you crit on a 4 or less. You have 2 dice, and the group has 5 momentum. Do you want to use one of those momentum?
I do. So I want to make it 3 dice. And is the ship also going to assist?
Yes, it will.
So that'll be engines con from the ship.
Okay. The ship crits with a 1. I just rolled it. I'm not going to deny you guys a 1 when I actually rolled it and have to do it on the sidekick. So the ship gives you 2 successes. And you give yourself how many successes?
Looks like 3.
3. Oh my goodness. That's 5. They do not build momentum in this case. I was having you make this roll because the captain says run simulations, do whatever you have to do. We're flying low over the away team. And you look at the board and you know that you still have probably 8 minutes. And you know that you can do some of the piloting already by programming certain things in. And with 5 successes, I'm going to give you 2 re-rolls when you make the actual piloting check, if you want them. That only applies to the actual piloting check of flying low over the continent to pick up the away team. But you have 2 automatic re-rolls at that point. Quickly back on the planet. What do you guys want to do? You just had that communications.
All right. So coming off of our big giant info dump, I want to, if everybody's okay with this, I want to spend a momentum to inquire for more information.
Yeah, obtain information. Yeah.
What would you like to know?
One of my talents is sensory replacement because
you have
Janek has an artificial eye.
Okay.
And he wants to trace the paths from the trigger into the Borg to see exactly where it connects into the Borg.
Okay. At the same time as that, you are verifying. Right. I'm assuming Marcus is starting to look for the same thing. And it is a very, very minor connection to the power systems that are, both of you are seeing it at the same time. It's a very minor connection to the power systems that are basically keeping this Borg thing, this dead Borg, functional and alive. It looks like it requires 3 specific wires. Actually, it's down to the like, in order to disarm the bomb that will lock you out of there and you'll lose the information. You actually are down to like there's 3 wires and you have to pull them in exactly the order of the middle one, the right one, and then the left one. Both of you discover that at about the same. You might not. I'm going to think that Janek, with his cybernetic eye, discovers what the actual pattern is. But Marcus, you discover that there is going to be a pattern to these 3 wires, and you'll disarm it and be able to go down below. It also won't kill the Borg.
Let's communicate that information and then do the thing.
Yeah,
okay.
I tell you all, it's like, okay, if we follow this wire and this wire, this one right here.
Who wants to do the actual thing, Marcus or Janek? Marcus has what was the one that you have? You have
the talent? Sensory replacement?
Yeah.
Basically, what it does is whenever I use or spend momentum to gain more information, I can acquire about something that is beyond normal organic sight or whatever, based on.
With munitions, I think that actually Marcus is the best one to make the roll. And I may be wrong on this call, but I think it's daring security. Does Kendra also have munitions?
No, I was just going to say, before we do anything to the board, can we please disable the signal that it's projecting? Just in case something happens and the shield that's keeping it from projecting goes down.
My question to that would be, would disabling that transceiver trip this trap?
Oh.
So let's have Janek disable the transceiver while I disable the device.
Would disabling the transceiver be more of an engineering or more of a medical? Well,
more of an engineering or security, both would work.
Okay, both my engineering and security actually are pretty good.
Okay, so the two of you set to work to disable these. Baz, am I wrong in thinking it's daring security?
Daring and control are sort of very similar in a way.
Okay.
Daring is very much like intense, life-threatening kind of situation, and control is where you're more focused and controlled and precise.
Okay, and we'll make it control security. You crit for the disconnecting from the bomb, essentially, that will lock out with the computers below. You crit on a 3 or below, Duncan, and your target number is 14.
Am I removing the implant for
and removing
first?
The implant first? Let me look. You have control of 9 and security of 4. So your number is 12, and you crit. I'm afraid your focuses don't apply.
Security of 9 and discipline of 4, did you say?
Yeah. Security 4 and control of 9 would be equal to a 13.
Can I spend a momentum for an extra die?
Yeah, I'm going to say yes. You guys have 3 left, and these are the tense last moments, which is awesome, because it's all gonna happen. Because this is right where I want
2 successes.
2 successes. That builds the momentum back. You guys still have 3. You get both of the you get both the trigger and the with the rolls that you guys made, you get both the trigger and the disconnected transmitter. Yes, you get the transmitter disconnected. Now, your only guess, Janek, when you disconnect it is it was a pretty delicate operation. And you look at the rest of the body of the cannibalized Borg, nothing about what they took from this thing was delicate. In order to disable that, it was a very delicate thing. They might not have been able to disable it. It's possible conclusion of the fact that none of the other work on the thing looks delicate, but what the two of you just did, what Marcus didn't require actually delicate work. It simply required someone rigging that power into a 3-way input into what they're making, as a trap to set off. But the work of actually disabling the transceiver was delicately done. You just had to. You rolled really well. 2 successes, and that means that you could recognize that none of the other work you don't want to call. I don't want to call it work. They just tore pieces off of this thing. Rick, when you think about it, as people are getting new information, when you think about it, Rick, really, and Quentin too, the job that those people did incorporating the Borg technology into the battery wasn't much more than like hooking a jumper cable up to itself. It wasn't really like superior work. It looks like they were just taking power sources that they found to keep generating power through a loop, and they could have done that. It's possible with the kind of technology that they had. But yes, the Borg is now disconnected. It will not explode. The hatch will be able to be opened. Does anyone want to move the Borg body?
Graves wants to take the Borg with him, so he wants to secure it for transport out once they leave. He will also be directing the Rick Tier and Quentin to quickly go down in the hatch and get all of that data as much as possible and as much scan data as possible. And the clock's ticking at this point, so everyone's got to move.
What does Kendra do during this time?
Kendra assists Graves in securing the Borg for transport.
Right on. So the two of you, it's really, really creepy because this thing has like pieces of it missing. Its organic components are old and atrophied, hundreds of years old, only being kept alive by the technology pumping through it in many places. And it's not a difficult thing to secure. And who wants to open up the hatch?
I'll open up the hatch.
Hey, you pull it open and contain rooms without an airflow that maybe have dust that gathered up in that was left there over time. It wasn't a clean room, but it is a room that smells like old stale air when you open the hatch. And down inside is what I described. All of you at the hatch, I think probably would include Waitley at this point, would see banks of those old, like modern special effects, but banks of those old TOS style computers with blinky lights and stuff. There's nothing, there's no people, there's no chairs or anything of any kind, but it looks like those systems will be very easy to interface with if you want to. Does anyone want to go down and do that?
Graves has already ordered Rick Tier to do
and
that.
Probably Quentin as well, I imagine.
Quentin as well, and since Janik is over there, Janik is responsible for security, although Graves issues one more order to Janik, specifically check for anything that can be used to destroy this entire facility.
I'm going to do a quick scan and make sure that there aren't any additional booby traps.
None.
Rick, if you want to interface with the computers, I'm going to take scans of everything in the immediate vicinity.
Okay, Rick's sort of already sort of doing it, and he's just going to eat on it.
Hooking your tricorder in to download whatever data that you can pull out of these computers. So and Quentin is scanning the room, and that the age of the air and from every little piece of data that I think you could probably pick up, the age of the air in here you can tell is hundreds of years old. The age of the computers themselves is hundreds of years old. They're like 1950s computers. It's like the size of them. And independent power sources that are equally as big, and they just take up whole walls. But you can tell by the age of the material and the fact that some of them have information deterioration, meaning Rick won't be able to get the full story, but you basically patch your tricorder into their data streams, Rick, and the first thing that you would say when you see it begin to come across your pad, this room is a time capsule of some kind. What you're getting on your pad is all kinds of information about long-lived society. The people would live to be over 100 years old. They had lost their origins in the stars, but had created a life here that is now hundreds of years gone, which is why, unless you go to like the specific places, unless you have the ship scan things like castles and whatnot, you won't see where all of their society might have been. But they left this as a time capsule, and they wanted it protected against creatures that arrived during their third, and this is something you'll get more of on the ship. Like it's a time capsule. It's a all of these computers contain a history book of a civilization that existed here, and the Borg is the result of one of the Borg who was shot off of the hull of the Enterprise and floated through space until it crash landed into this planet. They had record of the Borg in decades and centuries before, and so they feared that this was some sort of a sign, and they decided to leave their history for someone to find in case they were never found again or were assimilated. You can also see that they have a mostly human appearance with slightly pointed ears, but the ears are not pointed at the top; they're pointed at the bottom.
Oh man.
They're like backwards Vulcans, and that's they were like a 21st century plus level of technology. They could figure out how to like jury rig different sources of power together and such, but they had lost their origins in the stars long ago, and they were not a spacefaring species.
But they speak Terran Standard English.
They standard English.
Wonder what else fell from the stars for them. Do we see any analog style recording devices?
Yes, you could certainly grab what looks like tapes of recording. They may be backups, you don't know, but you do see the three of you that go down there. I'm going to say, while the two of you see that, Jennick, you see a box, like a crate full of analog tapes that you could get.
Transporter tag, all the things.
Transporter tag, all of the things. I want this and this and this and this, all of this. And
tags will transport 5 items.
We probably have to get it out of the hole. We're still above the dampening field.
There is actually, you find when you try to contact the ship, you can put your transporter tags on it fine. Up above, it's not a problem. In this room, you can't get a signal out of this room.
Yeah, I would work on hauling like everything out of the hole.
So that's great. So you guys are bringing back a Borg that was thrown off of the hull of the Enterprise during first contact, and eventually crash landed into this planet. You're bringing back analog tapes and downloadings of the history of a civilization that existed here for hundreds of years. This is an incredible find exploration-wise, and up on the surface, Marcus, your comm badge goes off, and we hear Reliant, and then the scene shifts up to the bridge of the ship, where the captain has just tapped her comm badge again. It's been a very tense 10 minutes. The captain has asked Larissa 3 times if she's ready for the kind of shield drop she needs to do. She's looked over at you only a couple of times, Kara, very happy with what she's seeing because you got like all those successes, right? Very happy with what she's seeing you bring up on the...
She actually may be slightly nervous. It turns out Kara's planning a very short warp burst.
That's probably the best thing to do to get away and down there really fast. Like a seconds long warp burst, not a terrible thing. I call this an active cue. He knew the trap it'd be involved with and found it the captain, Kara, you see her, it's been that tense like 10 minutes as they're doing whatever they're doing on the planet, and she finally at 10 minutes she says, all right, this is not exactly the reason you were trained for your jobs, but we were all trained for our jobs. She taps the comm badge and says, Reliant to Graves. Have your team assembled in one spot.
We're already ready, Captain.
And you hear you hear the voice of the transporter officer say, "We're ready down here, Captain." And she says,
Kara breaks in for a moment to go over the shipwide comms. All officers, general quarters. Things are about to get bumpy.
And the captain finishes with, "Are you in position, Graves?" And at this point, all of you are coming back out. You've downloaded the information. You have these awesome analog tapes. You have a dead Borg drone. You can all be gathered together when she says, "Are you ready, Graves?"
He's already acknowledged that they're already ready.
Okay, sorry, I missed it. And she gives the order for, she says, "Kara, hit it."
How much momentum do we currently have?
3.
I'm going to spend the momentum to get an extra die.
You have 3 dice. You have 2 rerolls, and this is a life or death kind of roll. So it's daring and con. So you have a 12 is what you're looking for, and you crit. No. So it's daring and con. Let me call up your sheet here. You have so you crit on. Sorry, I was reading the wrong thing. You're 7 and 4, 11, and you crit on a 4 or below. You have 3 dice and 2 rerolls.
I have 2 crits and a success.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's crazy good. And you said you're going to do it by instituting a short warp burst. I'm sorry we went like 5 minutes over time. Guys,
yeah, it's basically
we're
sort of a
done.
Picard maneuver. She's going to warp as close as she possibly can, and then probably at full impulse go down through the atmosphere, and then be ready to warp back out to some coordinates she's already put in.
Okay.
Now, just as a question, your shields are going to be down for a moment as you're beaming.
Absolutely.
So, how long of a moment?
Long enough.
Okay.
I know what you're thinking, because I know somebody else who's thinking the same thing.
Uh-huh.
So, with a short warp burst, the standoff in the sky is broken as the Reliant seems to warp almost directly toward the planet and cut out of warp, and cuts out of warp right above the atmosphere, and then just dives into the atmosphere. Up above, the Orions make a show. The Ibby captain, roll 2 dice for the Ibby captain. The Ibby pirate. Pirate recognizes that the Orions do fire, but they're not firing to hit the Reliant. They don't target you. They target the fleeing Reliant, but they don't try to hit it. That's what you see. They don't try to hit the ship. They try to make a show of trying to hit the ship, but they don't. And Kara brings the Reliant. I love the page from Attack Pattern Tugs that Quentin put up earlier. It's kind of what I imagine in my mind the Reliant doing right now, flying right over your team. Like, you're seeing the size of your ship, which is, it's not the biggest ship in Starfleet, but it's impressive to see your ship flying over these giant trees. and the transporter beam grabbing all of you as the Reliant shields go down for just a moment.
And at this moment, the AB captain, I should also say that the ship was also going to be flanking the Reliant. He attempts to beam the Epos out. However, actually, no, let's do this, or should we do this as a roll first? There's a however.
Okay, what is the however? Let's do a roll first. The IB captain should roll 2 dice for the equivalent of control and command or security, I think. Probably security.
All right. There we go. So it's 7 and 17, so that's probably 1 success.
1 success. So what is the however?
The however is the fluffy blankets Lieutenant Tardigrade has placed over the cages also include a transporter inhibitor.
Oh, that's so brilliant.
So just to recap, so in the chat here, Lieutenant Tardigrade has gone down, or just in case people are listening.
Actually, I caught all of it in the chat. Maybe we'll get a write up we'll include a write up of what happened to Lieutenant Tardigrade
I can just give a quick explanation right now for the narrative.
Okay, cool.
Lieutenant Tardigrade has gone down to the cargo bay with the exocomp, as mentioned earlier, and they have placed fluffy blankets securely on top of each cage. Each one contains a transporter inhibitor, and the exocomp has a fluffy blanket on him as well. The only thing in there without a fluffy blanket that's a life sign is Lieutenant Tardigrade. So the IBI captain beams Lieutenant Tardigrade off of the Reliant.
That's terrible. Oh, that's terrible. So he beams Lieutenant Tardigrade off of the Reliant, and that'll be a story for another time.
And then the Navy captain will then immediately go to warp afterwards.
Okay, so Cadet Tardigrade is lost to a transporter beam. The only witness of it being an exocomp who then sees this is not a security exocomp, by the way. And when people look at it later, it's gonna really you're gonna hate me, and you're gonna hate Mina a whole lot. So Star Trek Reliant Episode 3 ends with the end of this beaming them up and everything. And Episode 3 ends with the exocomp. We see the camera we see is from the exocomp's visual processor. So it's we're seeing this mechanical exocomp looking out from under a blanket, and the exocomp sees two Orions beam in. One of them shoots the exocomp, leaving it crumpled in a mess on the floor.
No, we need the exocomp. No.
Nope, it happens. And while the shields are down, they grab the EPOs. And as Kara, just as you're going to warp, just as you're ready to go to warp. I mean, it's also something that Rick Tier can fix. Unlike Lieutenant Tardigrade, who can't be fixed if he gets shot, right? Intruder alert goes off on the bridge, and the captain looks back and yells, "Shields!" And basically it's just, does Larissa get them on in time or not? And just as you're about to hit that warp button, Larissa says, "We're being hailed, Captain." And she says, "On screen." And Mina, Claire Danes as an Orion, says, "It has been a pleasure doing business with the USS Reliant. I don't think I'll stop doing business out here. Not just yet, anyway." Take us out. And the Orion fleet far above you warps out, and you guys don't know yet that they took the EPOs in the seconds that it took to get the crew back on board. And that is the end of the episode. Is Mina saying, "It's been a pleasure doing business with the USS Reliant. I don't think we'll stop doing business in the cluster just yet." He's like, wait, let me record again.
It's fine. It could just be for you guys. But Lieutenant Tardigrade is just standing in the bridge, just in front of the captain, and he just waves, "Hi," and the scene ends.